sat in my seat and I looked across at the beautiful vista of the green rolling hills and feel the cool Manchester breeze and heard the stirring voice of Fabian, I could only say, to God be the glory. Chairman of the NHD, Mr. Linval Freeman, Member of Parliament, Rhoda Crawford, Mr. Martin Miller, and the team at the NHD, members of the Municipal Corporation, stakeholder representatives, our resident pastor who prayed for us, and the most important people here today, the beneficiaries. I'm seeing smiles, I'm seeing expressions of pride and happiness. I'm also seeing some expressions of relief, finally, thank God. And I see some heads nodding, and you wonder, how could he see that expression and read it? It is because we have had so many of these ceremonies. I made it a point of duty for the NHD to always hold a handing over ceremony. It's very important. Ceremony is not only for show or officiousness. Ceremony has an important role. First of all, it is a marker of achievement, a mark in time of an achievement. And the development of a housing scheme like this, it is important to mark it in time. It is also a point of recognition. The people who have contributed, the people who have sacrificed, and those who will benefit. But it is also important for the government to have a platform to place in context this achievement. And so today, my presentation will try to do all of these things in this ceremony. Mark the achievement, recognize the contribution, and place in context what this is all about. It is important that this be done because in today's world, there is, as there always has been, but in today's world, it is far more intense. There is a battle for your mind. There is a battle for what you think. And it is a battle that we must be very careful not to lose. Because the consequence of losing the battle is significant, dangerous. So there is always a narrative that is in the public domain. In fact, there are competing narratives, several narratives, different perspectives, different truths. And you are all at the same time the judge of the information, but you are also the target of the information. What information will you believe? What information will you use to make your decisions? Yes, the battle for your minds. So, allow me for the next 1.5 hours. I'm just kidding. I will be very expeditious. So for the next 20 minutes, raise your hands when I pass 20 minutes. Allow me to compete for your attention and to share with you some information for which you can be the judge of. This afternoon, I'm pleased to participate in the handing over ceremony for the Perth Phase 2 housing development, a project that goes beyond housing. It represents an investment in the people of this parish, offering quality homes that meet your needs and aspirations. Manchester as a distinct community was not initiated by the colonial powers, but by the determination of local farmers and residents who petitioned for a distinct administrative center, different from Clarendon, St. Elizabeth, and what was then a parish, Vere. So this area of Manchester did not have its own administrative center under the colonial government. And there's a good reason for that. Manchester was not a big sugar parish. That was essentially the reason. But it was a parish where coffee and small farmers were. And they felt that they needed to have their own administrative center. And so they petitioned for a parish. And that is how the parish of Manchester came to be formed in 1814. So you can see that from then, the people of Manchester had an independent spirit, and they had an aspiration of ensuring that they control their own destiny. Today, Manchester remains a symbol of progress. However, the population in 1814 and now, two different things. You can't compare them. The population has grown significantly, and Manchester is a hustling, bustling parish. Not to mention how the town of Mandeville is just growing rapidly. So Mandeville and the suburbs of Mandeville requires significant housing solutions. In recent years, your government has made strategic investments to transform Manchester into what it is today. Yes, it had the bauxite spurt, and bauxite still continues to drive. But Mandeville has developed its own energy outside of bauxite. It is developing new industries. We're seeing BPOs coming in, significant other developments. And we are supporting that. Your Member of Parliament mentioned the Maypen to Williamsfield leg, which connects the town of Mandeville to Kingston. But we have one more major investment to go, which is to extend that to a bypass of Spurtree. And when that is done, it will be significant for the development of the parish. We are already in the planning stage, and you will see that roll out in the next few years. There are plans to have other developments in the town, and eventually, who knows, Mandeville might be the third or fourth town in Jamaica to get city status. It is a serious reality, right? Mandeville is urbanizing at a very rapid pace, and with the infrastructure development that we're doing, it's quite possible. And that infrastructure development includes the water supply project, which I toured recently. Granted, it is pushing water from St. Elizabeth up the hill into Mandeville, but the truth is that we have to provide Mandeville, this growing town, with the water it needs to support its development. So we position Perth within this context of a growing urban space. Just 5 kilometers from Mandeville, Perth is therefore a critical offering to the persons who are doing business, who are going to school in Mandeville. We need the other component now, which is where do we live? So to fulfill our Vision 2030, Jamaica the place of choice to work, do business, but then there's the other component, to live and raise your families. And so that is what we are doing, fulfilling the objective of our Vision 2030. Mandeville is growing, Mandeville is developing, but you have to complement that with proper communities and housing solutions. And Perth is a critical element of fulfilling that. So we're not just offering homes here, we're offering a lifestyle. So people will be able to have access to modern facilities such as schools, health centers, and proper police station, community centers. So this community will have all the facilities and amenities for a good lifestyle for the people who choose to reside here. This development includes 1,231 housing solutions, 458 two-bedroom units, and 773 service lots. Today, we are handing over 144 housing units and 301 service lots, with the remaining 314 units and 472 lots to be delivered at a later date. Let me give you a profile of the beneficiaries. Of the 445 two-bedroom units and service lots being handed over today, 66 were reserved for public sector contributors and persons with disabilities, leaving 379 for eligible contributors. Of the 379 selectees, listen to this, and as I survey the audience, I see the reality of it. 71% were females. My speech says 29% were males. I don't know, it could be any other. To the lucky men, I hail you. 63% of the selectees were between 41 and 60. We have to talk about that, Donald and Martin. I mean, I know we have to be, look, the profile is a good profile. It's a good profile, but recall what the chairman said, that we have to make sure at least 10% of every development is for those 36 years and younger. Because the structure of your point system tends to give more selections to the older age groups. And what we're seeing happening now is a significant unfulfilled demand for the 36 and younger. So I'm very happy for the profile that is here, 41 to 60. I do get complaints from time to time of older persons who say, because I'm 60, I can't get a mortgage again, or I can't get a house. And that is also unfair. So whatever we do as the NHT, we have to make sure that it is equitable and all sectors are equally or equitably represented. The majority, 53%, earn within the band 42,000 to 100,000 per week. I don't know what does that say about the income profile of the beneficiaries. Not a bad income profile, it's a fairly decent income profile. But importantly, to go back to our thrust for equity, 33% of those who are accessing mortgages in this development would pay between 0 and 2% interest. So that tells you that though the profile is more lower middle, there is also a deliberate thrust to ensure that persons who may be earning minimum wage to below 42,000 a month, that they are also captured in the profile. So generally we can say that Perth has a balanced profile of contributors to ensure that every aspect of the Jamaican society is represented here. 40% of the beneficiaries work in accounting, administration, or in the clerical fields, and 25% are in religion and education. I don't know what that category of religion means, if they are pastors or social workers maybe, I don't know. What does that mean, Martin? You can explain to us what does category mean. But that's what it is said. Religion and education. So your government remains steadfast in its commitment in meeting the needs of Manchester and its expanding population. The National Housing Trust has been and will continue to be instrumental in addressing the housing demands of the people in this parish, ensuring sustainable development and enhanced conditions of living. We have the Perth 2, which we are now doing, as I said, that will deliver 1,226 units at a cost of $14.2 billion, and we have started delivery as we are doing here. Just to be clear, this is a NHT development. It is not part of our developers program or the other programs that we have, the GPP. The NHT is fully managing, financing, overseeing, doing everything for the project. And the beneficiaries, some of them would get 100% mortgage financing. So that's very significant for those who will benefit from the houses here. In the process of approval is the Mount Nelson development, which is to come. We will start that in February 2025, and that will have 1,468 units available, and that will be at a cost of about $15.4 billion. My notes here say that it is at the OPM for Cabinet's consideration. So by the next Cabinet meeting, I will ensure that this is signed off so we can get rolling, so I can have a handover to another set of happy homeowners. 1,468 units to begin in February 2025. And then in Albion, Manchester, we have another 820 units. And this is in the planning phase and design phase. Hopefully this will move through very quickly, make its way for approval and procurement and so forth. The intention is to start in September 2025 next year. Now, the NHT is not just building homes. As we said, we are committed to doing work for the community. And that is why we have done rehabilitation work in the Cedar Grove housing scheme, which includes draining, upgrading of the drainage system, and rehabilitation of the road network. We spent $45 million in doing that. In Chudley, we spent another $77 million for the construction of a new basic school, as well as to rehabilitate the multi-purpose community space. And we also did some work on the Manchester Infirmary. We spent $48.2 million on the construction of a new female ward there. So the NHT is not just building homes, we are investing in the communities. Now, the NHT has a plan to build 43,000 housing solutions. 43,000, that's not anything to scoff at. A total of 21 projects amounting to 4,856 housing solutions across 9 parishes are currently under construction. So I want you to imagine a train line of houses coming. And in the first cart of the train would be 4,856 houses under construction. So at the next stop, we will hand over some of those houses. A further 10,515 housing solutions are at the contract stage. So that is the stage before construction. So that is the second cart on the train. A total of 11 projects have been approved, and the contracts are being prepared and are to be awarded. In the third track, in the third cart in that train, a total of 14,987 housing solutions across 23 projects are currently going through the procurement and negotiation phase. So when those 14,987 units have been negotiated and the contract signed, then they go into the second cart. But right now they are in the third cart, but they are on the train line. The NHD has approximately 11,000 housing solutions across 17 projects for which planning and design is currently being done. So that's the fourth cart in that train. So we have 11,000 planning and design, 14,987 in what you call the procurement and contracting. We have 10,515 contracted and to be started, and 4,856 in the construction cart. So that train is moving, providing houses for Jamaicans. And it's important that I put it in this way because, again, there is this battle for the minds of the people. There are those who are invested heavily in trying to trick Jamaicans into believing that nothing is happening, when that is absolutely not the case. Never before in the history of Jamaica has the NHD had so many houses under construction. Never, never, ever, ever. When I announced this plan in 2020, we were hit by COVID. Delayed us for a year and a half. Then there was the significant increases in inflation and supply chain, which affected construction. So when we announced in 2020, COVID knocked us off for about 2.5 years. We are now just getting back on track, and the train is on track and it is moving. Jamaicans will have 43,000 housing solutions either being financed or sponsored by the NHD that will be delivered over the next 5 years to Jamaicans. There are those who would want to suggest that with the snap of a finger, 50,000 houses can be built. It's just not possible to do that. What the government must do is to work out a system, put in place rules and the oversight to ensure that there is sustained and constant delivery of these homes. Before, what we used to have was 1 year you would have 500 built, then another year you only have 200 because there was no global long-term plan. What we have done is to put the NHD on track to deliver. I heard the pastor say the government working in partnership with the NHD. Again, a narrative which suggests that the NHD is an independent entity on its own and the government is over here separate. No. Yes, the NHD has its own legislative structure, but the NHD is an instrument of government policy. It is there to execute the government's policy in housing delivery. Because there are those who will say, oh, it's the NHD building a house, it's not the government. Well, change the government and see what happens. Again, a competition of narratives. So, the NHD is an instrument of the government's policy, and the NHD has been actively ensuring that we will be able to deliver houses for the people. Jamaica has always had a housing deficit, a deficit of about 150,000 housing solutions. We have never been in any position to make any impact on that 150,000. The NHD, through the policy of the government, has now worked out how it is going to knock off 43,000 of that 150. But the NHD is not the only instrument of the government's housing plan. We have the Housing Agency of Jamaica, and they have another 15,000 houses that they will deliver. And then the government, through other initiatives, such as the Bernard Lodge development, which will deliver another 10,000 or more housing solutions. I don't know how many of you have gone over to that development, but that's Little Miami being developed right there in Portmore, providing houses for the open market. And then you factor in how government policy, not just for housing, but how the government's economic policy has created the environment for private developers to build their own homes. We have never had such a buoyant construction and housing market in Jamaica. I always take the complaints that I hear where people say, I can't get, and the frustration. I understand it. But to make it seem as if nothing has happened, or nothing will happen, or nothing is happening, it's not quite accurate. The Jamaica of today is different from the Jamaica of 10 years ago. You can't say nothing is happening when 10 years ago our unemployment rate was as high as 13%. The unemployment rate today is 4.2%. This is a different Jamaica. And I know there are those, when they hear those facts, they struggle because they want to believe negative. But when did the NHD have 43,000 houses lined up? Just remind me when. These are the facts. You see why ceremony is important? Anyway, I have borrowed enough of your time. But before I close, I want us all to recognize the importance of not believing the negative. My grandmother used to say, you have to be able to pick sense out of nonsense. And she was not a well-schooled woman, but she had the sense of discernment. Not everything that is published, not everything that is written, not everything that is carried by gossip and rumors should be believed. Information is like food. Be careful what you feed your mind. Be careful where you get your information. Read with discernment. One of the most frustrating things for me is to have intelligent people call me and ask me about rumors. The battle for the mind. So, today, get it in your mind that Jamaica is an economically stronger country than it has ever been since our independence. We have achieved 12 quarters of consecutive economic growth following the COVID pandemic. We have a record unemployment rate of 4.2%. the lowest national debt to GDP ratio in 30 years. We have a stable exchange rate and no new taxes for 9 consecutive budgets. When did the government of Jamaica ever give back anything in taxes to people? Answer that question, can anyone? No, never. No. The government has announced a new program, the reverse income tax credit, where persons who are earning below $3 million, providing they are compliant, they get tax relief. They get back a check. Is this the same Jamaica as the Jamaica 10 years ago? Absolutely not. But yet, there is a battle for your mind. I say to those persons who will enjoy this lovely environment, this lovely development, I am happy for you. I congratulate you. And I hope that you are able to build your families here, enjoy your life, and make the most of it. I urge you, however, to preserve the value of the property. Because you can get a house, you know, and 10 years down the road, the house has no value. Because of how you treat and care the community. The value of the house, you know, is not, you know, how big you build it. There are many big houses can't sell. The value of the house is how the homeowners join together to form a community to protect the value. So the NHT can only build the house and then you will buy it, but only you can protect and preserve the value. So I, again, very happy for the beneficiaries. I congratulate you and I wish you all the best. And I thank you so much for your patience, and I hope that I have won the battle for your minds. God bless you and thank you.